Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we've got a really fascinating story from our source materials. It's almost like uncovering a hidden piece of history, a kind of, well, the source actually calls it a secret love story.
It's about a personal spiritual practice.
Exactly. Something an individual, Dr. Naeem Mushtaq, did privately for, what, 35 years?
That's right, over 3 decades.
Yeah.
And then much later, finding validation for it in classical scholarship.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to really unpack that. How does a deeply personal feeling, a moment sparked by, an external interaction, lead to this long private commitment?
And how does that commitment suddenly connect with established religious thought? It's this intersection we're exploring.
Right. You should walk away understanding how spontaneous devotion and codified religious practice can sometimes meet in really surprising ways.
Okay, so to get this, we need to set the scene. Where and when does the story begin?
Yeah, good point.
We need to go back, way back, about 35 years from now. So around 1986, maybe 1987. And the person involved, Dr. Mushtaq, he was young then, just finished his matriculation, that stage.
So formative years, really.
Very much so. A time when personal experiences can really, shape your core beliefs before maybe the deep academic study kicks in later.
Got it. And the catalyst for this whole thing. It wasn't reading a text or hearing a lecture, right? It was quite unusual.
Yeah, it came from interactions. The source mentions he was having frequent, quite intense dialogues with Christian missionaries around that time.
Okay, that's an interesting step. What happened in those dialogues?
Well, it wasn't about the theological arguments per se. It was about how they referred to the prophet Muhammad.
How so?
They would just use the name Muhammad.
Muhammad.
It's flat. Exactly. The source points out it was the tone. It was routine, casual, like talking about anyone. There was none of the honorifics, the tazim, that deep respect ingrained in Muslim culture when saying his name.
Ah, I see. So it wasn't necessarily meant as an insult, but the lack of reverence itself felt wrong.
Deeply wrong, it seems. Visceral, even. That casualness, that lack of expressed respect, it sparked a powerful reaction in his heart.
Like a defensive feeling.
Yes, precisely. A sudden surge of mohabbat, of love and protectiveness, and this intense feeling of respect for the prophet. He felt this urgent need to compensate somehow, to personally elevate the name that felt diminished in those conversations.
Wow. Okay, so this powerful emotion gets triggered. What does he do with it? How does this private 35-year practice actually start?
It starts in a very specific, very personal setting.
Yeah.
His daily prayers.
Okay.
Specifically, the Asr prayer, the afternoon one. He's finished college or study for the day, maybe worked at his father's shop near the mosque. He's in the prayer, sitting down after the standing part.
Right, the sitting posture.
And he's reciting the Durood-e-Ibrahim, which is, the standard formal blessing upon the prophet taught in the prayers.
Which includes the phrase, Allama salli ala Muhammad. Oh, Allah, send blessings upon Muhammad.
Exactly. And as he's reciting that specific phrase, Allama salli ala Muhammad, he stops.
Why?
Because the memory hits him. The memory of the missionaries saying the name so casually. That disrespectful tone echoes in his mind right there in the middle of this sacred ritual.
And what happens then?
Out of that feeling, that sort of protective love and need for reverence, he makes a decision. Right then and there. Silently. Just for himself.
What does he decide?
He decides to add something. To augment the standard prayer, he starts inserting the honorifics Sayyiduna wa Mawlana before the name.
So, Allama salli ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad, meaning our master and our patron Muhammad.
Yes. That specific addition, born purely from that moment of emotional reaction.
Now, hold on. Adding words to a fixed prayer like the Durood, that feels significant. Maybe even risky, right? Was he worried about it being an innovation, a bid'ah?
That's the crucial point, isn't it? The source emphasizes this was entirely private. He didn't tell anyone for 35 years.
Wow.
He had no formal proof, no dale, no scholarly ruling or synod to back him up at that moment.
So it was purely based on this feeling, this love.
Purely. It came from the heart. His thinking, as the source suggests, was that an act rooted solely in love and veneration for the prophet must be acceptable. He felt he couldn't let the name be uttered, even by himself in prayer, empty of that respect.
Regardless of the technical rule.
Apparently so. Whether it led to heaven or hell, as the source puts it, that expression felt necessary. He took that leap based on love.
That adds a whole layer of, personal conviction and risk. Okay, so he does this privately for 3.5 decades. When does the validation part come in? When does he find out if his instinct was right?
Much, much later. Years down the line, he comes across a specific important book.
Which one?
It's called Darain fi Salat ala Sayyidil Kaunain sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
That's quite a title. What does it mean?
It translates beautifully. The felicity of the two abodes and the blessings upon the master of the two worlds.
The master of the two worlds? Clearly relevant.
Extremely relevant. The author was Allama Muhammad Yusuf bin Ismail Nabhani from Lebanon. The speaker got hold of a translation by Allama Mufti Abdul Qayyum Hazarbi, possibly an older edition or a reprint.
And this book, it addressed his specific private practice.
Amazingly, yes. Right there in the second part of the book's preface or introduction, there's a discussion.
About what?
About the ruling. The specific question of whether one should include the word Sayyiduna, our master, in the Durood, the very thing he'd been doing spontaneously for decades.
No way. What did the scholarship say?
Well, this is where his personal conviction meets centuries of tradition. The book outlines the findings. It notes that major imams, the text references Imam Shafi and Imam Abu Hanifa, specifically through citations within it, actually maintain that adding Sayyiduna is mustahab.
Mustahab. Not just permissible, but recommended.
Yeah.
Desirable.
Exactly. That's a significant distinction, isn't it? It's not just jaiz, meaning allowed or permissible, something you wouldn't be punished for.
Right.
It's mustahab, meaning it's actively encouraged, spiritually rewarded, a preferred practice.
Wow. So his spontaneous act, born from that feeling of needing to show respect,
Wasn't just okay, it was actually considered a higher form of devotion by major figures in the tradition.
that must have been an incredible moment of discovery for him. It shifts everything.
Absolutely. It takes his private, potentially risky act of love and places it firmly within recognized beneficial practice. His gut feeling, his heart's reaction, was validated.
Let's dive into that validation a bit more. What specific arguments or statements does the book cite?
The book quotes scholars who are very clear on this, someone like Sheikh Muhammad Ali Abbasi, for example.
What do you say?
He stated firmly that adding Sayyiduna or Mawlana, or really any term that clearly signifies honor and respect tazim, is absolutely permissible. Jaz.
The justification being the intention.
Exactly. The whole point is to increase reverence. So how could adding words of reverence be wrong?
Makes sense. But you said mustahab, recommended. The book goes beyond just permissible, right?
Yeah, it does. And this is where it gets even more interesting, moving from legal ruling towards something deeper.
Oh.
The text mentions advice given by Mufti al-Islam.
And his advice was?
He advised against abandoning the use of Sayyidna. Don't do tark, don't leave it out.
Why not? Just because it's recommended.
For a more profound reason. He said this practice contains secrets and mysteries. Israr are ramuz.
Secrets and mysteries. What does that mean in this context? That sounds mystical.
It is. It suggests that the consistent practice of adding Sayyidna unlocks certain spiritual insights or experiences.
Insights that you wouldn't get otherwise.
That seems to be the implication. These Israr or ramuz are only revealed, the text suggests, to those who are consistent in the practice.
So it's not just about the outward act being permissible or recommended. There's an inner dimension, a potential for deeper understanding tied directly to the doing of it.
Precisely. It positions the practice as potentially a key, not just a point of law, but a path to a certain kind of spiritual knowledge that maybe purely intellectual study doesn't access.
That really elevates the whole thing, doesn't it? It connects his initial emotional reaction, that need for respect, to potentially unlocking spiritual secrets later on.
It does. It suggests his heart led him somewhere very significant, even if he didn't know the full depth of it for 35 years.
Does the book offer any other perspectives on the ideal way to do this?
Yes, it brings in the view of Sayyid Ahmad Raza.
And his take.
He argued quite strongly that it's actually better if the Prophet's name is never empty of the word Sayyidna.
Never empty, so always say it.
That was his preference, yes. Regardless of whether every single narration explicitly includes it, the feeling, the continuous state of respect should always be there when uttering the name.
Which loops right back to the initial trigger, doesn't it?
Perfectly. The young man back in the 80s felt that lack, that emptiness, when he heard the name spoken casually.
And his immediate internal reaction was to fill that perceived void with Sayyiduna wa Mawlana.
And decades later, he finds this classical text not only justifying his action legally, but echoing his exact sentiment, the importance of the name never being empty, and even adding this layer of hidden spiritual benefits.
The book basically handed him the formal proofs, the dalail, for something he'd felt and practiced out of pure love for decades.
Exactly. It showed his spontaneous act wasn't some random personal quirk. It was deeply aligned with a recommended, revered tradition, potentially even a pathway to deeper insights.
What an incredible journey. From that small private moment in prayer, driven by a reaction to perceived disrespect,
Adding Sayyiduna wa Mawlana silently.
keeping it secret for 35 years, maybe even wondering if it was okay.
To then finding this profound external validation. Confirmation that his heart's instinct was not just acceptable, but celebrated within classical scholarship.
It really confirms the depth and, you could say, the correctness of his private devotion.
And that leads us to, the final thought we want to leave you with from digging into these sources.
Yeah.
This story kind of challenges a common assumption, doesn't it? The idea that we always need the intellectual proof, the scholarly okay, before we act on a sincere spiritual feeling.
Right. He acted first out of love.
Exactly. Dr. Mushtaq's experience suggests that sometimes, maybe, the heart finds the path first. That deep, consistent devotion, even if it feels spontaneous or unproven at the time, might actually lead you towards a profound spiritual truth.
And the scholarship comes later, confirming or enriching what the heart already knew.
Perhaps. It invites you, the listener, to consider the power of sincere action in your own life. Maybe the deepest learning, the most profound truths, aren't always found just by seeking proof in books. Maybe sometimes they're revealed through that heartfelt, consistent practice itself, the heart leading the way.